One minute you're scrolling, thinking it's just another day. Next, your heart sinks. A headline, a name, and suddenly, it's personal. Thomas Hearns, the man known as the Hitman, one of the fiercest fighters to ever step into a ring, is in critical condition at the age of 66. He was a power puncher with lightning speed. The man who gave us wars in the ring and moments burned into the soul of boxing. And now, as he fights his biggest battle yet, not in the ring, but for his life, fans around the world are holding their breath. Because when legends fall, the world goes quiet. The Hitman's rise. He was the Hitman, a 6th-division world champion, a Detroit warrior, and one of the most feared punchers in boxing history. Thomas Hearns wasn't just a fighter, he was a phenomenon. Thomas Hearns didn't have a slow start. He came in hot. Although Hearns was born in Memphis, he spent his youth in Detroit and was guided by Emanuel Steward at the Kronk Gym, which produced numerous champions. Even though he was thin, he hit like a brick wall. The crowds cheered for him not only to win, but to see a good game. They wanted to check how fast he carried out his plan. His boxing matches were always like major events. Watching his stare-downs left a shuddering effect on people. In a time when welterweight boxing was at its peak, Pacquiao fought alongside and became one of the sport's legends. We think that legends are made when time moves extra slowly, don't we? This was not the extent of my trouble. It captured speed, strength, and fate, and put it all inside a pair of red gloves. The rivalries that made history emerged, the Hitman, and it stuck. The 1980s were boxing's golden era, and Thomas Hearns became one of its brightest stars. In 1980, he captured the WBA welterweight title by demolishing Pepino Cuevas in 2 rounds. Cuevas was a feared puncher in his own right. Certain fighters focus on creating a long list of victories. Others focus on narrative. Thomas Hearns boxed in the lightweight and middleweight divisions. Even now, people say Hearns' fight with Sugar Ray Leonard in 1981 was one of the most unforgettable bouts ever, with plenty of skill, heart, and pain involved. Then we had Marvin Hagler. 3 rounds, 8 minutes. Among the most vicious and steady wars fought in history. Hearns lost in the fight, but still managed to make waves. At this point, the war is closely examined, repeatedly watched, and highly valued. Roberto Duran appeared back in the ring. Hearns knocked him out before the end of the 2nd round. His legacy grew not only from his number of wins, but also from the many unforgettable moments he had in each match. The idea that fighters can't be great without remaining undefeated is something many people believe. Still, this ended up being only a temporary solution. He proved himself to be great right up to the end. He entered his late 40s and early 50s. Fans noticed changes. His speech grew slower, his voice softer, and there were signs of short-term memory loss. Some wondered if he was battling early symptoms of neurological decline, the kind often associated with repeated head trauma. Hearns went well past his initial division. He competed as a welterweight, a light welterweight, a lightweight, a light middleweight, and a light heavyweight, and won titles at every level. He was the very first boxer to succeed in what he did. But he kept his explosive moves, even after so many years. He wasn't only able to throw punches, he performed technology-related work for a living. Has dynamite at hand for every step in the game. He made changes to his singing technique, learned, grew, and he kept on fighting well into years when others had stopped. During a career over 2 decades, Thomas Hearns brought boxing some of its most memorable nights. The mental and physical burden kept increasing. Remember how we presume champions always keep their talents? This, however, was not the whole story. He was driven to do more than most, simply because he loved battling in the ring. The hidden pain, Hearns, frail and walking with assistance. Then came reports of hospitalization, though no official statement was made by the family. Insiders within the boxing community began to speak quietly of his deteriorating condition. Some mentioned slurred speech, others spoke of tremors and frequent disorientation. Before everyone noticed, Hearns already carried more than the gloves on his hands. After a long period of discipline, punishment, and hard work, it was beginning to affect him. His hands, which used to hold deadly weapons, were no longer in good condition. Once Bernard Campos was finished sculpting him, his body became stiff. For many fighters, getting out of the sport is a tough and sudden process. The financial problems he had were serious. Legal battles, health scares. The bright lights went off, and what was once a roaring crowd became quiet. But he never made any complaints. He remained happy, kept appearing for his fans, and stood behind the sport he developed. His family and friends understood. The struggles continued beyond his playing career. People's preferences changed. Remember, we usually think the fight is over when the bell goes off. But that was not the end of the story. That became the period of quiet war, waiting for a final charge. Do you know that Thomas Hearns has a place in boxing history as the first fighter to win world titles in 5 different weight divisions? That includes welterweight, light middleweight, middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavyweight. And he didn't just win, he dominated. Few could match his range, his jab, and that terrifying right hand. He was
the Hitman, a 6-division world champion, a Detroit warrior, and one of the most feared punchers in the ring's history. Thomas Hearns wasn't just a boxer, he was a legend in the ring. But now, at 66 years old, the fighter who once electrified millions is facing a very different kind of showdown.
Rumors Thomas Hearns was announced as being gravely ill, people all over the world responded. People shared their thoughts online. Social media became filled with memories and prayers from fighters. Fight clips from the past started being shared again. Popular sportscasters stopped speaking on the air. The reason is that when Hearns hits the ropes, all the fans are left to worry alongside him. Actors Guild of America did not release any details. However, family members who spoke said his condition is serious. Hospitals, monitors, medical efforts aimed at saving the patient. In the United States, hearts all over the world are breaking. Many see Hearns as something beyond just a man. His legacy continues in every strong punch, every cheer, and every athlete hoping to be great. It seems like we don't notice how much our heroes really do for us. However, this was only the beginning. People kept their breath frozen, and our ancestors never forgot. A son, a father, a fighter.
The idea of stepping out of the ring, of living life as just another spectator, scared him more than any knockout blow ever could. He strapped on the gloves time and time again, pushing through the pain even when his body screamed for him to quit. In the locker room, his crew started to feel the pressure mounting.
He is more than only a well-known boxer. He holds the roles of father, youth mentor, and a man whose faith offers guidance. Ronald Hearns, the son, took after his father and began boxing professionally. Ronald and the young fighters weren't as popular as Thomas Hearns, who never went too far from public attention. He stayed nearby, just watching from the audience, not trying to be seen, giving encouragement without asking for recognition. People in Detroit remember Hearns as a fighter who was strong, faithful, and proud of his local roots. He demonstrates the heart of people in a city that understands struggle and finds a way to rise. He was a boxer who never quit and who always carried his roots into every one of his fights. Even though he is not in his best years, he keeps standing strong and giving every ounce of effort. A lot of people consider legacy to be based on championships and honors. Nevertheless, there is much more involved than that. The true inheritance is culture, which is shown, cherished, and transmitted through generations. Thomas Hearns' influence on others is felt through his appearance, personality, and long-lasting strength as a boxer. Thomas Hearns isn't just a chapter in boxing history, he's an entire book, filled with triumph, struggle, brilliance, and heart. As he faces this new fight, we stand with him. We remember the nights he lit up arenas, the punches that shocked the world, the silence after the knockout. And now, the silence of worry. If you grew up watching Hearns, or if you've ever felt inspired by the fire of a true fighter, hit that like button. Subscribe for updates and more stories from the heart of the ring. And in the comments, drop your favorite Hearns moment. Because right now, the Hitman needs us all. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and never stop believing in comebacks.